And we resume the talk shop this morning with a reminder for Relay for Life. The daffodil and tulip sales are underway now till February 13th. You get a call to Pam Brecken, 760-4753. Scan the Venmo code. We'll get that on at the 8 o'clock hour after visiting or on a break with Brandon Newman. Brandon Newman, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And welcome to the talk shop. This is one of those mornings where we get a start where you're halfway out the door and, well, where were your keys to the studio? Behind you. So we go back, we circle back, and here we are. Yeah. Thank you for your time this morning. And we had a question on social media. Who's Kendra Bull? And Kendra Bull, a nomination to the Planning Commission for the city of Laramie. And just because you're on city council doesn't mean that you necessarily know that answer.
No, so that's one thing that Mr. Glass kind of mentioned yesterday was city council already knows. Well, only 3 council members
are actually sitting on the
interview, right? So then the other 6 of us, we don't know, and we can ask questions, and
it's not a secret. It's just procedurally you don't know.
Right.
You'll know tonight.
We were told that she was really good, and that was about it. So yeah.
One thing I want to remind everybody about is, 9 city council members divide about 50 groups, organizations, committees, and so forth. I mean, tell us about that real brief, if you would.
Yeah. If people who want to run for city council or just think, I'll take a water too if you have an extra. Think that we just only go to meetings on Tuesdays. I mean, we have so much other stuff, boards, commissions. We kind of meet with some of the private groups, nonprofits.
Plus your own your personal interests,
right?
Your family, friends.
Yeah. Sometimes
there's life, 168 hours a week.
Sometimes I see my family, sometimes I don't. And trying to balance all that.
We love you, Phoebe.
Yeah. Yeah, she started school. I'm back in school, so I saw her for about an hour last night, and the day before that I couldn't even tell you. So
well, I love that. I love that. For going on 2 years, Brett Glass has helped on Monday mornings with the city council agenda preview, and that is sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes close to an hour of comment and review of. Basically, we go through the agenda, and sometimes there's a work session, 2 work sessions in a week, or whatever the city's highlighted doing by an agenda in a week. Roll through it. A couple weekends ago now, we had a Friday, Saturday city retreat, the annual retreat. Tell us about that at the Municipal Operating Center.
Friday was pretty good with going through the rules and procedures, making a couple adjustments to the rules and procedures, see if we can get the meetings kind of streamlined a little bit more. And then our biggest topic was...
You haven't had many go to 9:30, have you?
No, not at all. No.
So streamlined, you must mean something else besides length of time.
So kind of, if the mayor wants to have her own kind of announcement, or whoever the mayor is at the time, there was really no spot for that, right? So consent agenda is a good example, right? Our boards and commissions members are always appointed on consent agenda. It's just easier, it streamlines the... but there was no real spot to say, hey, these people are actually in the audience, right? So after the consent agenda, we're adding what we called for better of lack of terms, because I don't remember it. Kind of like it's not on there yet. The mayor's minutes or the mayor's announcements, kind of. So then, like right after the consent agenda, she can say these people are in the audience, right? And then streamlining the process for work sessions is another big topic that we talked about.
Is there any chance that after a speaker, the public could see an opportunity to speak, so that there's not an hour and a half transpire, 5 speakers come forward, and the public gets only to ask, maybe to interject a question? There's not an involvement in 2024 or 2025 sessions that allowed or provided for that. So many times, and there's really not, it's not necessarily known how long a presentation would be before public would be given that opportunity. And admittedly, some will come to the beginning of a meeting loaded for their one topic, 2 topic interest, and then they depart. And
that wasn't discussed at the retreat. However, one thing that was discussed, so public comment, the public comes up, right, and the way our rules are written, you guys can ask questions, the public can ask
you
questions.
just don't get them answered.
We don't have to answer them, right?
Right.
That is going to change.
And with 3 reps for every citizen in the community, you would hope that one of 3 might follow up on your question as your direct representative.
Well, we shouldn't
That's
have
theoretical.
We shouldn't have to do that anymore. So the new way that the public comment section is written is we can direct staff to answer your question right then and there. So it will be more now. That's at council's wish, right? So if somebody doesn't speak up, they don't have to answer it. But there was a lot. Let's use stormwater, right? One of those first meetings, we had 70, 80 people there, whatever it was, and it was question after question after question, and it was the same question, right? But we couldn't do anything about that with our rules and procedures. We couldn't direct staff to answer those questions, but now we can. So there was a question that Joe Shumway, Councilor Shumway, made on December 3rd, 2024, and it was what legally puts this to us as councilors to decide on the surface water utility versus the public voting on it. Sure.
And it was immediately followed by Councilor Pat Gabriel at the time, who spoke. He believed that would properly go to a specific purpose, excise tax vote, and therefore it would go to the public. However, City Attorney Bob Southard was not, his words that evening immediately following that is that it'd been some time since he read it, and on 3rd reading he wasn't prepared to speak on that directly.
Right. And
therefore, Mayor Harrington at the time moved forward with a motion and a second to vote without achieving that Southard comment. Do you look back at that? Do you remember that meeting?
I remember most of these meetings just because it's been so long and drawn out, and yeah. Could we have
done better back at that point in time? Were there things that we've learned over going on our second year, or obviously we have. I don't mean to be light of it, but it's been long and arduous, not just for council, but for the public as well.
Yeah, and to city attorney, I can't comment on he's got other stuff. I can't comment on why he wasn't ready to answer that question or.
Well, some have said that's a legal position. Is no comment is a comment.
Right, and I see that.
In the legal world, that is it. But it still strikes me that a counselor, there's only 9 of you.
Yeah.
And each one of you are critical minds and important sayers and doers in our city governance. And to not get a point in time right at that moment, guess what? January 21st, 2026, the Select Water Committee meet in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Senator Gary Crum, District 10 Senator for Albany County, proposes a bill that committee ultimately votes 6-6 on. Now, at the first 3 speakers at that meeting were Ashley from Wham, don't recall her last name, and then Todd Fieser. Actually, it was Pat Collins spoke second, and then Todd Fieser third with respect to the city of Cheyenne, then the city of Laramie. And ultimately, after the meeting was moved up from 1 to, I think they might have probably started earlier, like 10 o'clock or something. But in any event, 11, 12, 1, 2, 4 hours later, 6-6, and it's a split vote. And I just looked back to December 3rd, 2024, and I thought, where have we come? Where have we come? We're so divided. And the vote in Laramie, Wyoming was 6-3 for the utility to be adopted. Now, we adopted a utility. We immediately went in item 16 to select staff to run. It was a engineer tech to run that puppy. And then we go, I don't know when they actually hired him, but suffice it to say, January, February, March, April, May, June, July 1, it's live, going to the bills 7 months later, and by the 5th Tuesday, 3rd week in July, all hell broke loose with public opinion.
Yeah, and one thing about that that I still don't know how to combat, right? Because we still do. You guys have a show every Monday about the
agenda.
The agenda. Then we make Facebook posts. I think there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 counselors who will make posts. Supposedly something went out in the mail about the surface water drainage. So I don't know how much more, like, as a city we can advertise some of these things, like these bigger things that are coming up, right? Instead of, get a bill.
As an entity in media, for 30 years, there's been a decline in direct press release communication to media outlets, known media outlets. That doesn't seem to be the best effort possible in my eyes. Everybody's staffs are... Government has the largest staff of many entities. Yeah. And to issue them, or to not issue them regularly, to not hold press conferences direct between city manager and the public on a routine, regular, anticipated basis for public dissemination of information, accurate information. I don't know how many times I've taken I've taken a comment that's been made from council, and it's what we want to get accurate information out there. The implication being that we didn't have accurate information. Now, in some cases, that's true. In other cases, why was that true? Nevertheless, we're not doing all we can with respect to that. The University of Wyoming athletics department will have Coach Azell, they do weekly pressers. It's just flat out. And you know what? That's pretty good. That's pretty good spend of 15 to 30, sometimes 40 minutes of time where you get the word of mouth and the video clips released accurately for that. And you get questions immediately following that come from minds that are following it on an ongoing basis. That's just my view. Now, what reminds me of that, we're visiting with Brandon Newman, city councilor for Laramie, one of 9 in Studio 255 today, this morning. Last week, the Wyoming Department of Transportation spoke, and one of the public information officers came forward and said, "Oh, we released press releases." Oh, yeah? What's your distribution list? Because it isn't coming and hasn't come in 10 years to either one of my stations. And both are in the state of Wyoming. Now, I went through last legislative session and I clicked all of the advisories.
Yeah.
Notify. That's probably the greatest taste of what Brandon Newman and 8 other city councilors get in your inbox, is something like that. And admittedly, I'm probably a first paragraph reader to decide apply or not apply immediately using it that week. Or can I attend or not attend? I mean, that's really the 2 triage questions that I treat each one of those questions. But I knew from the Department of Transportation, I watch road conditions, I watch closures. Closures they're very impactful to our economic state in Laramie, Wyoming. We're not on the I-25, I-80 interchange. We are only on the I-80 corridor, and the state highway 287 might be open more than the other, but that might be the road you want to stay off most. Then, but in any event, I had the opportunity, and I was grateful for her coming forward, because at least I was able to point to, hey, would you put me on that list? Would you put me on those lists? I have 2 entities that I would appreciate getting that direct information from, and in doing that, no follow up from her in a week's time. With, hey, thank you for, those kind of things are getting lost in our culture a lot more frequently now.
Yeah, counselors that I sat close to kind of said the same thing, because there for a while we were getting them, and then I noticed they might have been going to my spam for a while, and then I don't think I've seen one in a while. So we as counselors kind of asked the same thing, like, could you double check either your system or your email list to see, like, do we get kicked off after a while? What's going on with that? So, and if you're not a social media guy, right? I'm on social media, it seems like all the time. Sometimes you even miss some of those press releases.
I was reminded while serving on Laramie Jubilee Days board, not everybody has a mailbox. Not everybody receives direct mail.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a computer. Not everybody can make the hours that are available to see a computer face-to-face at the Albany County Library, the public library. Now, is that exclusively one entity's problem or another? No, but it does signal a need for multiple methods of distribution of the information, and you guys are tackling that. What else did you face or did you have on the itinerary for the Municipal Operating Center retreat?
So Friday was, procedures, kind of.
Pretty exciting day.
Yeah, what we want to see work session wise, meaning, if I'm a counselor and I suggest a work session, somebody seconds it, what's the next step, right? And that was kind of missing, so we're going to fill in some of that. Saturday was a lot of the goals, kind of what we want to achieve in the next fiscal year.
What was the review on last year's goals? Before you went into New Year goals, or was that part of it simultaneously? Yeah,
kind of. We had a list. We kind of knew what was coming up with our goals, and Janine, before taking her position elsewhere, kind of gave us a rundown of here's the goals that we've achieved. Here's the goals that we're probably not going to get to because of time, those kinds of things. So we kind of knew going into the goal session what we achieved out our last goals, what we didn't, what we still need to work on. And personally, I think some of our old goals were more tasks than the goals. Like update the boards and commissions of our new goals. That was like a goal, and I was like, that didn't really set well with me per se, because that's more like a one-time task, right?
Checklist item one day, you're done.
Right. So just kind of going into that, we were kind of, what really is a goal? What should we be setting as goals? How do we make them smart goals? How do we make sure that we have those check marks underneath the goals of we need to do X, Y, Z to accomplish this goal, right? So it was good. I'll say the person running the goals,
Facilitating it?
This might have been the first time that they have done a city operation. I could see the executive kind of in her higher business, but I don't think they understood kind of like we're elected.
How were they selected?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that either. I don't know if that was a mayor, city manager. I don't know the answer to that. So we got where we needed to be. It just took us a little bit longer because she kind of didn't understand some of our city council processes, which is okay, right? It's a good learning experience for everybody.
Did 5 tables, as I looked on, I watched for about 40 minutes on Saturday morning. So I appreciated the availability to the public to mostly listen. You didn't have such a, I think the owl was being used, and it swivels, and while that audio was very good, I felt that was very good and quite followable. Didn't see citizens involved. Are there opinion leaders that would have helped blend you're doing goals for the people. You're all people. You're all members of the group. You're voted and elected, but some are city staff. And therefore the public perception is that, well, city staff once again gets a prioritization above the people of Laramie. And is that something that crossed your mind?
So citizens could have came. They could have.
Do they get a seat at the table when they come? I saw seats around the edge.
Around the edge, yeah. Uh-huh. It would be just like any other work session.
They get 3 minutes at the beginning and 3 minutes at the end, and and kinda, whatever idea you might have had in a day and a half, you wouldn't get any more than that.
Kind of how that is set up currently, yeah. That's about how you would get. I do know that Brett Glass was there. He was passing us notes, which is great, right?
Could be.
Now for our goals, because I did see this was a social media topic for a while, because it did. If you jumped on Zoom, it kind of did look like council and staff were one and the same, right? We were sitting at the same tables, but I'll tell you the goals that were wrote up on the farthest, I think, right. Those were council goals. Those weren't staff. Staff was there to direct us in if that was an achievable goal, basically, right? Or if it was something we're already working on. So like my goals every year, my goal is let's pave some West Laramie streets, right?
How have we done during your term?
Well, so the Wyoming Avenue was paved. That kind of started. That process started a little bit before I was on council. The Sixpenny this year, we're going to pave on a road south of Snowy. And talking to our new city manager, we're going to try to do that every budget year. So we're going to pave a road on like the south side, and then the next budget year we're going to pave a road on the north side. And if we would have done that, all our streets would have been paved already, right? And that includes, the west side. That includes kind of the other side of
That
the
gets us
railroad
out in Sherman
tracks.
Hills. That gets
Yeah.
us out. That gets us in all
Right.
directions, perhaps.
So I'm really excited with our new city manager and his goals and kind of his communication. But I will say the goals are council goals. Staff didn't, at least for me, staff didn't direct me what to write down. I wrote down whatever the heck I wanted.
What other goals did collect you or collectively council come up with for 2026?
Sure. So talk, and I don't remember them all. So working with boards and commissions, I do like how this one. So working with boards and commissions to help achieve our goals, right? Not just tell them, hey, here's our goals. So we want to kind of make sure that we're all working on some of the same things. Obviously, aquifer protection's always one. One of the goals that I had that made it to the final list was continue to kind of see what we can do for building codes and rezoning codes, those kinds of things. More importantly,
Think we need more?
no, I think we need to kind of review what we have.
Cater them to
If
our
s-
community?
Right. And so back in Kansas, when I started this whole, if you call it a political career, I guess, I started on the zoning and planning committee, but we didn't have building codes in my community there. So it was kind of weird. It was kind of interesting in the beginning. People could really show up with a building on a napkin, and if an engineer signed that napkin, that kind of counted, right? And I didn't see the napkin, but a plain piece of white paper that a guy sketched in front of us, and his engineer signed in front of us. Like that's what like got me started in this. Do we need to go back to that? Please no, right? But should we have, our landscaping? Could we cut that back a little bit? Maybe. Could we cut back some of these subdivisions that they want to come in and build what they call tract housing? I think we could. I think there's, we already have some of that around here, right? Now, does that need to be built in the tree district or on the west side? Probably not, right? But using some of the land that we have, I think we can cut back some of the building codes. I also want to see about grants, one-time loans, things like that to help us with some of the industrial properties, commercial properties that have just been set and vacant for a long time, right? Specifically, maybe some downtown businesses that have been vacant, some that are on Third or Grand. Kind of help, what can we do as a community to help bring in business without getting in the way? And so that was one of my goals.
One thing that inhibits business in downtown that I received from one member of the audience is that facades and different requirements of the downtown don't facilitate ownership transition from one to another, because the moment that an ownership changes, on record changes, a whole new impact driven set of rules adds to, and therefore actually detracts from the valuation of the property. So the current owner is really impacted by those new logistics that must be considered, because the new owner can't just open next day. It's not a turnkey situation in downtown. And the city of Laramie has created that problem.
We have a work session coming up. I don't think it's scheduled yet,
It's on the docket.
It's been one that has been on since Mayor Harrington was mayor. It's been on the docket. The mayor, the current mayor, his name was on it, and then I put my name on it as well. So we met with Todd, we met with the other directors, and came up with a game plan on how and what we want to see in that work session. So I know they're working on it, and one of that is, because that was one of my questions, right, was, this company wants to come in, they have to meet all this stuff, but do they really have to, right? If that building is safe, it's been there for a while, those kinds of things. So that's coming up, and I hope out of that conversation something changes.
I want to come back to this next segment perhaps, but want to close this segment with a reminder to everybody. We thank Brandon Newman, City Councilor for Laramie, also educator at WyoTech in our community, and congratulations on your added role to your position at WyoTech. More to do, great to do, and you're doing it for a long-standing company in education, vocational education, and we can't be more thankful of your time this morning. We'll be back in a moment with more. This segment brought to you by Union Home Mortgage. Dan Passman in historic downtown Laramie. He's the area sales manager in downtown at 208 East Grand Avenue. And remind everybody, the Sportsman's Raffle, the 13th annual Sportsman's Raffle, February 14th at the University of Wyoming Fieldhouse. Tickets are available at the West Laramie Fly Store and the Ivinson Memorial Foundation office for that event, which will collect proceeds, and those will support the Ivinson Memorial Hospital, Meredith and Jeannie Ray Cancer Center. And we appreciate that opportunity to share those tidbits with Brandon Newman up next after this.